Hello, my name is Franklin. Today, I'm presenting our paper, Understanding Visual Arts Experiences of Blind People. Visual artwork, such as photography, drawing, and painting, allows the expression of important ideas, emotions, and beliefs in a multitude of forms, and profoundly influences human society. However, most artworks pose access barriers for over 2.2 billion people in the world who have vision impairments because these visual artworks are inaccessible non-visually. Prior HCI and accessibility research has explored technology-based approaches to lower different access barriers, including museum navigation, audio descriptions, tactile graphics, virtual art tours through smart devices, and multimodal feedback that combines multiple modalities, such as tactile and audio. Despite past research, we still know little about how people in the blind community adopt existing technology-based supports and what considerations they make when using these tools to access visual arts. We focused on 4 research questions. How do blind people currently access visual arts? What factors influence blind people's adoption of visual arts access methods? What motivates and brings aesthetic enjoyments to blind people to enjoy visual arts non-visually? And how should technology be developed to support blind people to have better visual arts access? We conducted semi-structured interviews with 15 blind visual arts patrons and further examined interview insights through a follow-up survey study with 220 respondents. In the findings, we will first go through the current practices and challenges that are covered for both in-person and remote art access methods for blind people. We found our participants leverage various ways to access visual arts, including asking sighted peers, listening to audio recordings, using tactile graphics, and attending remote art tours. Our participants mentioned that pre-recorded audio descriptions provided by art galleries or museums are mostly designed for sighted patrons, which lack detailed descriptions and often require additional effort to activate the audio by scanning QR code. For example, one of our participants said, audio descriptions mentioned several attributes, like houses and trees, but without including where they are and what colors they were painted. In terms of using visual interpretation techniques for identification, our participants mentioned existing tools are not specifically designed to provide descriptions for artworks, which often miss important contextual information. For example, one participant said, "It mostly tells me things like, there are 2 people, 1 sword, and 1 horse. There is almost no contextual information of the painting, such as who is holding the sword and what are the interactions between the 2 people." Beyond in-person experiences, we also learned that remote art tours have become increasingly available and popular during COVID, and all participants highlighted the benefit of remote tours as a convenient opportunity for blind people to understand visual arts with professional docents. In the meanwhile, they also mentioned the limitations of remote art tours as the lack of engagement and communication, which made them do not feel as immersive as in-person tours. In terms of the motivation of perceiving visual arts, we uncovered 6 different reasons for blind people to engage with visual artworks, including cultural learning, encouragement, activism, social interactions, relaxation and enjoyments, and nostalgic reasons. Specifically, one participant explained, "I really like to go to art galleries with my glasses and cane on. This identifies that I'm a blind person and shows to other sighted people that blind people can also appreciate arts." Furthermore, the right figure shows P9 spent significant time with a specific piece of visual arts in memory of his wife, who had passed away. Regarding the cognition of appreciating visual arts, we found that there are clear disparities between people who are congenitally blind and those who acquired later in life. People who acquired blindness later enjoy visual arts through imaginations based on existing visual knowledge and discussing their imagination with sighted peers. However, for people who are congenitally blind, the enjoyment instead comes from tactile feelings of the artwork and surrounding environments. Our participants mentioned the enjoyment brought by visual arts is different when accessed through imagination versus tactile renderings. We found a significant association between the onset of blindness and the willingness to access visual arts at an art venue through tactile methods. We further dive into different age ranges of blindness onset, and we found that our survey respondents with earlier blindness onset tend to prefer to use tactile access more than later blindness onset. From the interview, we uncovered 8 design considerations of visual art access methods. We will focus on 3 of them in the talk. The first is matching modality choices with comprehension goals. Participants commonly want tactile access to information about the subject, such as people or background environment, and form, such as shape or line of a visual art piece. In terms of audio descriptions, such as recorded or from peers or docents, they want it for the content, including history of the artist and time period of the work. The next factor is enhancing objective interpretation to establish individual interpretation of the artwork for imagination. P2 voiced out this preference. I prefer to get a perception of the artwork from my own experiences. I do not want to hear personal comments from people. All I need is what color they used, the contour of the lines, and what kind of objects present in the painting. Furthermore, our participants mentioned that even if they do not try to engage in social interactions, blind patrons experience stigma with the way they access visual arts, such as touching. To act on this, P6 explained, I like to use tactile graphics in front of other sighted folks. I can show them that blind people can also understand and appreciate visual arts through touch. In the discussion, we proposed design directions of visual art experiences for social contexts and activism for blind people. In addition to institutional barriers against activism, people with disabilities have to navigate additional physical and environmental accessibility challenges to effectively collectivize and protest against injustice. First, we suggest opportunities to utilize human-robot interaction to reduce physical and social barriers for blind people in social interactions. Next, we also propose the exploration of more dynamic and collaboration techniques for blind patron groups and investigate associated design opportunities. In terms of remote access, which brings a lot of opportunities for blind people, there exist opportunities of enhancing the immersive experiences with other modalities, such as deploying adaptive hardware for multimodal experiences by using graphical braille display for remote purposes. Moreover, future remote art accessing tools could also include features for customizing non-visual presentations based on blind users' comprehension goals, preferred art vocabularies, and visual experiences. In terms of technological opportunities to enhance visual art access methods, one important criterion is to encourage an artistic experience of visual arts descriptions by providing information that supports blind patrons with visual imaginations. For example, the descriptions should use references and metaphors that are familiar and aesthetic to blind patrons in explaining visual concepts. The second technological opportunity is to explore context-based automatic image recognition systems with further advancement to consider what information of a visual art piece that blind patrons actually care about. Last but not least, to encourage and prepare blind people with necessary knowledge and resources for visual arts experiences, we suggest future research to build multimodal learning tools, which would reduce the effort of learning and provide more immersive experiences for blind people with different visual conditions. Thanks for listening. For more details, please read our paper.